our township? If not, are we paying, is the county paying rent for that space or not? And if we're not paying rent, why is it what the former sheriff is not being used? Why is it just taking up space in our township parking lot?
That's yours.
We don't own it.
Yeah,
It doesn't work anymore, it's obsolete. We
I
have,
understand that those are standard markings, it wouldn't, we don't own that spare trailer.
well, I would just like someone to look into it and, you know, who owns it or why is it there?
Yeah, we have an updated version that the county owns, and it's maintained by the traffic safety unit that runs out of headquarters. But before coming to District 3, that's where I came from, was traffic. So I would have facilitated, I was there for 12 years. Jay, I'm almost 100% positive we don't own that unit back there, I think it's yours. But we'll look into it.
We'll find out.
If it's county owned, we'll haul it out of there because it's probably not functional. And if it's township owned, I'll just get with Mr. Bickford and
I would think we own it.
But in lieu of that, I think we've been using the portable ones that go on the signs. We had it up at Macaulay.
and we've also been using the one that is maintained and run out of patrol headquarters. It's spent a fair amount of time.
Okay. Thank you. Next, similar, there has been two, what I would call large vans. When I say large, they're not small, but they're white, no insignias, decals on them, whatever, and they have county plates. And I've asked in the past to the office folks over here, and I really never got a clear answer. If I may ask, does that belong to our township? Are they, and if not, who do they belong to? And again, if there doesn't belong to our township, are we charging any rent for that? Do they get to park there for free?
They are Hamilton County prisoner work detail transport vehicles that the county asked to station out here. It's easier to transport the prisoners to the various work sites when the vehicles are located here. So we're helping out our friends at the county.
So they are being used frequently for that program? then?
Used every day? Yeah.
Okay. And in conjunction with that, Ms. Smith, I know this program, just for my curiosity, when they're out, is there a civilian supervisor, or is there like a sworn deputy sheriff with them on those?
That's not something that's coordinated with the sheriff's office.
That's
through
a county probation employee.
Oh,
Yeah, that's not our,
Okay.
County probation.
initiative, yeah.
Okay, next. My understanding, many of the major roadways that intersect our township are, in Sycamore Township, are county owned, or maintained by the county engineer. For example, Kenwood Road, Cougar Mill Road, Sycamore Road, just to name a few. And I guess my curiosity, it's my understanding that in the not too distant past, and I apologize, but I believe this is before Trustee LaBarbera is on, I guess it'd be called a contract or something was put out for, my words, a sewer drainage study in front of the former, maybe not sewer, a drainage study in front of the former Burger King restaurant where it used to be down here on Kenwood Road. Also, is my understanding, and again, I apologize because Mr. Kellums is not here, because I think he spoke of this before, of some of these issues to you. So I apologize for my recall, but I think close on Kenwood, in front of the hospital, by East Galbraith Road, that concrete island there, I believe you approved, and again, this might have been before Trustee LaBarbera is on, a contract or an agreement for a company to, I think, do weed control or litter pickup, and the, again, with Mr. Kellums and you've been working for several years now, and this is my words, a rehabbing, repaving major of Cougar Mill Road close by and Sycamore Road very close by, again, county roads. And I know there are some acronyms and grants and who pays what percentage, but I'm just curious why we, for these four things, or why are we paying for any studies or whatever on county roads if it's a county engineer? Then also, even though it's nice, and I can tell you from personal experience, the Cougar Mill and Sycamore Road, because I frequently use that to come here to these meetings in this building, they're in quite deplorable shape. So I commend at least the idea of getting them repaired, but I'm just curious, why we, the township, is paying for, or a big contribution to those projects.
I think what it basically comes down to is that the county has a whole lot more roads than we do, and they have limited budgets, and they are not always able to maintain their roads to the level that we would like them maintained. And so we have, we're selective about it, but we at times choose to pay for those improvements ourselves, usually only in the case of having grant money. We apply for grants, and if we receive grants, we go ahead and do some of that work. Sycamore Road, for example, is going to be renovated, but primarily with the use of a federal grant. And we use, I think are we 20%, Greg, of that?
20%, we got half of that in the local.
And, yeah, we got half of the 20% was paid for. So what generally happens is that if there's a county road that we think needs work, and the county is unable or unwilling to do it, and we find a grant program such as the SCIP grants and the LTIP grants, we will apply for those grants, and if we receive the grant money, we will go ahead and contribute our 20% of the project and get it done.
Okay, and the major, my words, rehabbing of Food Mill and Sycamore, if I'm correct, if I'm understanding you correctly, sir, if we, the township, would not be contributing something or signing off on the grant, that would be a lower priority for them as to getting it up to nice, safe driving ability then?
Having served on the District 2 Integrating Committee for the last 3 years, including doing field inspections by the support staff, where they go out and they rate projects when people apply for money, there's a statement that I've heard countless times. What you people in Sycamore Township think is a bad road is nothing compared to what's a bad road in other parts of Hamilton County. We're constantly hearing, and a lot of times the grant distributions reflect it, that our roads, even if we think they're bad, they're in better shape than a lot of other roads in the county. So it's from a county standpoint, our roads don't get the same priority that some others do, because they have other roads that are worse than ours, and they actually score better when they do the applications for grant money.
Okay, going back real quickly to the contracts agreements for the lawn or the concrete island maintenance and the study on Kenwood Road. Can you give me a little response on that one?
Greg, can you fill me on that one, because I'm
That goes back
I
a
was
while.
gonna say, I think that precedes me too. I don't think I was.
If I
on board
remember
for this.
correctly, again, it's an issue of the county not wanting to do the maintenance. And so if we want them to look presentable, then the township has to step up. This is why you see the underground utilities, all the paved roads that we've done, the county simply doesn't have the money or won't do it. If I'm not mistaken, this had to go back 10 years maybe, even longer. We entered into a contract to spray the weeds to control them, because they were really getting out of control. This meeting right out here. I don't know what had happened with it. I think since then the county decided to continue their spraying program. I don't think we've done anything with it since that one contract those years ago.
Okay. And next question. These three speakers, 1, 2, and 3, are they functioning at all tonight, or they have been functioning, or will they be functioning? Because, for example, when Mr. Fortin was behind his camera tonight while all of you were talking and addressing other, to me, he was so close, your voices should be blasting, and I just sat right behind him, and I was just curious how to hear it.
Here, try this. Talking to it, Jay.
Sounds like they're working to me.
Okay, thank you, just thank you for the clarification.
We have to strike a balance too, Jay, with that. If they're too loud, they'll either feedback or they will distort our record. So we have to balance that out.
Okay. Next, for what it's worth, our township puts out a quarterly newsletter, and I just wanted to tell everybody that many of you here have done articles and do articles before, but I believe this is the first time our new trustee, Jim LaBarbera, has an article, and it's a nice picture, very complimentary among all of us in the township, and I congratulate Trustee LaBarbera for the article, and I think it's very nice and well done. And at least me, I call it old school on all of these smartphones and everything. So I look forward to these every quarter in the mail. And, you know, you can see from my newspapers, I call old school. I still like paper, I enjoy a good newspaper, or I enjoy reading things in the newspaper. I enjoy our newsletter, so I think that's very well done. And they have different departments, different new people, new employees, so I just thought that was good. And I'm almost done here. My next issue goes with, and somewhat Trustee LaBarber's transparency, and I call it open records and open meetings. And I've had some issues in dealing with people here and other governmental entities, and they frequently utilize the words HIPAA and privacy. And I made some contacts in the past for public records from our fire department. And the purpose of my record, there was, off the top of my head, in my particular neighborhood, which is the Ross Moyne Milldale community, there was 2, in my opinion, major house fires there within the last year. When I asked for the public records for the report, and I guess it's my understanding mutual aid, no matter where it is, many other departments respond. And I received some paper documents from the fire department of their reports and so forth. And one of my issues was, or has been, the, hold on a second. Oh, the part of the report was incomplete, so this is off the top of my head, so I apologize. It was pushing 20 pages of a report. There was about 5 or 6 pages missing, and how I only knew this, as a paralegal, I consider myself a pretty good researcher. Not against the township, not against the fire department, but I utilize them for a public hearing on some other issues, and I was testifying under oath. At that particular meeting, as I was called, there was at least 5 lawyers in the audience who would be listening to my case. It was very embarrassing for me, like the night or 2 before, just by happenstance, that currently, because of economic challenges, I do not have a printer at my residence, so I have to go to a public terminal printer. When I set it up to put the copies in for reporting, 2 times, it didn't reflect the correct number. Subsequent to that, I contacted Director Chief Penny. He did not prepare the report, but he's the director of the department. So off the top of my head, I don't recall, but basically the major person that reported from his department was different on each house. And I have attended and completed the state certified open records, open meetings trainings. Mr. Fortin has in the audience. Some of you may be aware that I worked very hard with Dan Reginald, who owns Framed USA in Springdale, Ohio. So the state told us they would come in and do an off-site training in our area if we could get 35 confirmed people. And to utilize some of the words of the High Point people, it took us the better part of 2 years to get 35. Believe you me, we tried very hard. Contacting governments, civilians, this is open to anybody. So we had a presentation in March of this year, and we ended up with 108, and I'm very proud of that. But I'm sad that, except for Mr. Fortin and yours truly, I don't think anybody else, none of you came to that. So be that as it may, I'm not a lawyer, James, but I consider myself a good paralegal. So we were taught in paralegal class, I'm always supposed to say, I am not a lawyer, this is not legal advice. However, in this book, it does say there are protocols for redacting, regardless of what the acronym is, HIPAA, privacy, or whatever. It does not fall upon me or anybody to have to follow up with anyone who authorized release records and say, why is that redacted? And I want to bounce real quick one other time. I made a request to Mrs. Campbell, and she sort of looked for some records, and she laughed and she said, and this is in the absence of Mr. Miller, Mr. Butler, she said, Doug said not to release that. So I'm not disputing what Mr. Miller believes is not to be released. However, that doesn't cut it according to this law. And I'm not asking for special favors, but there's a very special protocol for when things are redacted. That has never happened to me in this township. never, okay? Going back to the fire department, there's a similar, doesn't matter what the department is from government, there's a very special protocol and procedure to use. And Director Chief Penny, when I contacted him, and I believe the acronym was HIPAA. And some of the documents were completely, they were redacted, they were gone. So, 1 through 20, 1 through 15, there was about 5 or 6 pages. And I do my best under oath not to lie, to testify. And I'm lucky, I was very lucky at that public hearing because I presented it from the report. And for whatever reason, none of the lawyers at that time wished to copy. However, the ruling went in my favor, which I'm pleased. But nevertheless, afterwards, they asked for a paper copy. And I gave a copy of the reports that I got from the chiefs on the 2 houses containing these redactions. And the only way I knew it was redaction because he and I went back and forth with a couple emails. And in the chief's mind, certain issues are redacted, were protected by HIPAA. And I'm here to tell you that one of them in this book, they refer to, and the slang term I guess is runs, meaning when he gets calls or they get calls. According to this book, in my belief, when they respond, whether it's a business, a church, a school, a residence in our township, according to this book, I or anybody are entitled to know the name and address of the person they respond to. I'm not asking for the SSN, not asking for the DOB, not asking for their DNA. Because think of this, even with this tragedy today, the media is already announcing the names of one of the victims in this tragedy, so they're allowed to have it. It also says in this book, and this is nicely passed by our General Assembly, which currently is the majority of your political party. And it does say in there that anyone can request records. It does say in there that you don't have to live in the township.